Hello everyone, welcome to BISP Solutions. I'm Tanvi Arora and I'm working here as a techno-functional consultant. So today we are going to discuss about the Web Reporting Studio and how to create reports using this Web Reporting Studio in our FCCS application. So in my previous video, I've explained the meaning of the Web Reporting Studio and how to actually use the properties and the features and the functions of this reporting tool. Okay, and then we can reach to a customized report finally. So I'll go to the application and show you the Web Reporting Studio page. So basically, this is the home page of my application, and under this navigator option, you get this option of opening this reporting web studio page. Okay, so I have already opened this. So this is how a report basically looks like, and you can view this in HTML view or either the PDF view. Okay, so you can see that this is the grid one. We have already created a grid one. Now this report is depicting something which is you can see that we can this report is showing that we have calculated the variance. Okay, we have put some formulas and for the current year and the prior year variance, and then we have put a formula for the variance percentage as well. Okay, so you can see the formula that has been put, and we can also select the members that you want to see in this grid point of view and also in the main POV. Okay, so you can select the members and their children, or by whatever way you want to see the alias name or everything like that. Okay, so you have in this report we have selected the members of from our FCCS application, and for this we actually have to create a database connection from the application. So in today's video, I'm going to explain the small properties that are actually used in creating this grid. Okay, so there are two grids. One is for assets and the second one is for the liabilities. So you can see that when I view it as the in the HTML preview. So this is the complete report that I will get. Okay, so in this way we can prepare the reports, and we can use the text functions, and we can use the formulas and to calculate the variances, the sum, everything. Okay, so I will show you the properties in the grids, how to actually create a grid. So grids are the tables that contain data from external database connections. You can add a grid to your report, define its dimension layout, select members, and then format the grid. You can also insert an existing grid to reuse a pre-formatted grid design. You can use text, dimensions, members, and formulas to define the grid content. You can also hide a grid. So how do you add a grid? Basically, I'll show you in the application. So first of all, to create a new report, we have to go to this file, click on new, and then report. So from here, you can actually click on insert. Okay, and then you can insert a grid. Then you can define the area in which you want your grid. Okay, so you can insert any number of grids, like grid number 1, grid number 2. Okay, so when you actually select the area, you have to create a database connection from the application. Okay, so I'm creating this connection with my FCCS application, and you can create a new connection as well. So once you select this, you actually get the option of from the POV, you can select the members or their children or the descendants in the page or in the rows or columns. Okay, so in the rows, I'm selecting account, scenario in the column, and year as well in the column. So this way I can define like what members I want in my rows and columns and in the page. Okay, so once I click on this, okay. So now you can see that this is my grid on which I will work, and I have so many properties, okay, for this. So this is my row member, and these are my column members. Okay, so how to actually create a new grid, I have actually discussed this part. Okay, So you have to select insert, then grid, and then position the grid in the body section, the report designer. Then in the body section, the report designer, click and then select grid. So we have done this. Now we have already created a connection with the database properties. In the database connection properties, we have created a connection with the Vision Console application. Okay, then you can actually define your members in the rows columns. Okay, and then the pages. Okay, so by default, what happened is when you add a new grid, the system assigns a default name to the grid. The default name assigned is grid n. Okay, so you can see that this is n is the number that is defined by the system. N is a system assigned identification number. So in my case, it is 1. Okay, so now this is your grid. Then basically when you select a grid, these 3-4 things can be seen. So when I go to my application, in the web reporting studio page, when I'm actually selecting this grid and clicking on the right click on this particular tab. So I will get this option of dimension layout, grid point of view setup, and data query optimization settings. Okay, so what do I mean by dimension layout? So basically whatever, when we created a connection with the application, this tab showed. Okay, so we can select the members as I've already explained. So I've selected already account and scenario and years in the particular rows and columns. Then the next option is grid point of view. So this is my grid point of view. Okay. Now, so basically what is this grid point of view? It is the user point of view at the grid level. The grid POV enables us to specify the members for a dimensional grid without placing the dimension on the row, column, or page intersection. So in this case, you don't have to place the members in the rows, columns, or the page intersection. You can actually edit this later when the users view the report. So this allows you to control or limit the selection of the members available to users who view or print the report. They can actually toggle their information using this grid point of view, whatever members they want to select. And they don't have to place these members in the particular rows and columns. Setting the grid POV prevents prompting for the user POV each time the report runs. After you specify a dimension in the grid POV, you can determine how viewers select members. Okay. So this is my grid point of view. Now the option basically of enabling and disabling this grid point of view is here. You can untick this and then it will get disappeared. By default, it is unticked only, unchecked only. But if I select this, I'll get this grid point of view. Okay. Then the third option available to us is grid point of view setup. Okay. So in the setup, you have the options of selecting all the members. By default, it is all. Okay. So for all the dimensions, it is selected the all members, as you can see. But if you want a particular member or the descendant of that member, then you can go through this icon, like in the lookup, you can select a particular member for a particular dimension. Okay. The next option is this data query optimization settings. So when working with the grids, you can set data query optimization options to optimize the efficiency of your data queries, because data queries extract values from a multi-dimensional database connection. So it is beneficial to speed up the data query process using the optimization settings. Okay. So this the options that display in the data query optimization setting dialog box depend on the database connection. So it depends on your database connection. For example, like the sbase parse command option is only displayed when sbase is the database connection. So you can actually select it set to default to use the settings defined here as the default data query optimization settings. So you can either use it in the data connection server or the report server. Okay. Then there is another thing that how we can actually show or hide the grid point of view that I've already explained. Like from this option, you can actually show or hide the grid point of view. All right. Then selecting members for the grid point of view. We can select members for dimensions that are not used in the rows, columns, or the page axis, which I've already explained. That we can, when this is selected, we can actually like by default, these are the same. Whatever is there in the POV is there in this grid point of view, but we can actually make changes into this. Like whatever member we want to see, we can actually customize this grid point of view. So you can go click on any of the member, and then you can select the grid point of view members in the dimensions. Particular dimension you can select, and then you can select the particular members for this grid point of view. Then we will see the working with rows and columns in the grids. Okay, so these are the topics that I will cover, that inserting rows and columns. Few of them I will cover today. So like how insert rows and columns changes the height, width, headings, insert page breaks, define formulas, and add auto calculations, applying formatting, use templates, all these things. Okay, so first of all, we'll see inserting rows and columns. So how do you do that? You have like you can select a row here, and then right click on this icon, and then you can select insert row. So the three rows that are selected is one is the data row, one is the formula row, one is the text row. Okay, so suppose I select the data row here. Okay, by mistake I've done this. Insert row, data row. So a data row cannot be inserted before the first already created first member. Okay, so it can be created only after this one. That's why it showed an error. So in the second, I have inserted this data row. Okay, second row is my data row. So members of dimensions that are retrieved from a database connection, the member in a data row or column defaults to the top level member of the dimension. So first row is including the top level member of the dimension, that is my account. Then a hashtag symbol indicates the data row. So this hashtag symbol indicates that this is a data row. Okay. Similarly, I can insert one formula row. Now, formula row, it is values based on the formulas commonly used to calculate the totals, averages, variances on data rows or columns. So basically, the equal to hashtag symbol is for the formula row. So when I click on this, I can actually write my formula here. Okay, and I can use the various functions, that is different functions can be used here to write my formula here. Okay, you can see that average. Okay, then column, count, different functions I can use for sum, for minus, and rounding off, variance. So these formulas can be used here. Then we can insert a text row. So this is the text row, which is actually blank, in which you can like insert the data later. So text type into the cells are added dynamically through a text function. Text, you can actually also insert a text function also. Text rows, columns, or cells in grids do not contain symbols when added to a grid. They are initially blank until populated with text. So until and unless you populate any text here, it will not be reflected. So these are usually blank. Then whenever we add a grid to a report, by default, we get this thing. That is, by default, we get one data row, then anchor row, data column, and anchor column. Okay, so one data row, whenever you create a new grid, let me show you that. So by default, one row is the data row and data column. Okay. And then there is one anchor row and anchor column, which is this blank column and the blank row. Okay. Now, an anchor row or column is a blank row or column located at the end of the row or column. You can add one or more row or column in a grid. You can use the anchor row and column to append new rows and columns. Okay. So, and also there is one more thing, like if you want to add multiple rows. Okay. Suppose I'm inserting one new row, that is the data row only. Now I want to insert multiple rows at the same time. So what I will do, I will select these two rows. Okay. So this row and the next row. And then I can click insert row, and then if I click on data row, so it will, no, it is not working actually in the same manner. Now it got selected. So if I selected two rows, so the copy of two will be done. Okay. So in this way, I can select the multiple rows. Also, I can just copy or cut any row. So which I will explain later in the session. So in this way, we can insert the multiple rows or columns. Then how we can just populate the row or column? Okay, so we have to actually see this procedure. If I'm actually selecting this, so this column will be populated. Okay. And also we can actually change the row height. Suppose I have selected this row. By this way, I can actually change the height of my row, how much height I want. Okay. Similarly, I can do this for the column as well. So column width I can change. And there is one more feature into this, that adjust row height to fit. So it will always adjust automatically the row height. Similarly, we have this option for adjust column width to fit. Okay, so I can choose this option in order to actually, I can select multiple rows and it will actually look presentable if my rows are in the same height and width. And then we can define the custom headings for our rows and headings. So what we can do is, so if I want a custom heading for my column, suppose, so I am inserting a column. Okay. And here I can actually create a custom heading for my column. Suppose I'm giving variance. Okay. And I can also use like functions for this custom heading. From here, I can go to the functions, which will actually, I can create any function in my heading, custom heading. Okay, so I've just created this variance. And also see, if I want to merge two cells, so what I will do, I can select these two cells and then right click, and then I can merge these two cells. So this is the feature of merging the cells. In this way, it can get merged. So you can actually see all these things. Then we can actually select suppress repeats to hide headings for repeating members in a segment. So there is an option of suppress headings. Okay. You can see that this is the heading suppress repeat option. So by selecting this option, what we can see is when we do this to hide headings for repeating members in a segment, when you suppress repeats, only the first instance of the heading for a repeated member is displayed. Heading for additional repeating members are hidden. In this case, this will be hidden. And there is one more thing, that alias table, which is always set to basically default only. Okay. When you select the whole rows and columns, you can see this alias table, which is set to default. So we can select the alias table to use when showing aliases. So you can also select alias table in your database connection, although we cannot specify aliases at the grid level. Okay. So these are the things that we can actually customize according to our needs. And then we can actually override a row or column as well. Then cut, copy, paste of the rows. This is very simple. Like you can select any row, single row, then you can actually cut, copy. So if you are actually copying this, okay, and you can actually paste here. So what will happen? You can actually do this in the same grid or the other grid. But when you cut a row, you can actually only do that in the same grid only. Okay. And in the same column. Then we can actually insert page breaks before a row or column. Okay, there's an option of page break before. So I will select this row and I want a page break position at the top. So this will actually break my page. Okay. So inserting a page break before a row column in a grid enables us to break the report data at a specified location while keeping the required line items together. Page breaks are indicated with a heavy dashed line. So I've told the process of this also. So that was it for this video. In the next video, I will explain more about how to like see the properties, how to edit more properties in the grid and what more functionalities are there, and also the use of the mathematical functions, the text functions, everything I will discuss. So that's it. And thank you so much.